The Adventures of Maya the Bee by Waldemar Bonsels. Translated by Adele Szold Seltzer and Arthur Guiterman. Chapter 12. Aloes, Ladybird and Poet. The sun was risen high above the tops of the beech trees when Maya awoke in her woodland retreat. In the first moments, the moonlight, the chirping of the cricket, the midsummer night meadow, the lovely sprite, the boy and the girl in the arbor, all seemed the perishing fancies of a delicious dream. Yet here it was almost midday, and she remembered slipping back into her chamber in the chill of dawn. So it had all been real. She had spent the night with the flower sprite, and had seen the two human beings, with their arms round each other, in the arbor of woodbine and jasmine. The sun outside was glowing hot on the leaves, a warm wind was stirring, and Maya heard the mixed chorus of thousands of insects. Ah, what these knew, and what she knew! So proud was she of the great thing that had happened to her that she couldn't get out to the others fast enough. She thought they must read it in her very looks. But in the sunlight everything was the same as ever. Nothing was changed. Nothing recalled the blue moonlit night. The insects came, said how do you do, and left. Yonder the meadow was a scene of bustling activity. The insects, birds, and butterflies hopped, flew, and flitted in the hot flickering air around the tall, gay midsummer flowers. Sadness fell upon Maya. There was no one in the world to share her joys and sorrows. She couldn't make up her mind to fly over and join the others in the meadow. No, she would go to the woods. The woods were serious and solemn. They suited her mood. How many mysteries and marvels lie hidden in the dim depth of the woods! No one suspects who hurries unobservant along the beaten tracks. You must bend aside the branches of the underbrush, or lean down and peep between the blackberry briars through the tall grasses and across the thick moss. Under the shaded leaves of the plants, in holes in the ground and tree trunks, in the decaying bark of stumps, in the curl and twist of the roots that coil in the ground like serpents, there is an active, multiform life by day and by night, full of joys and dangers, struggles and sorrows and pleasures. Maya divined only a little of this as she flew low between the dark brown trunks under the leafy roof of green. She followed a narrow trail in the grass, which made a clear path through thicket and clearing. Now and then the sun seemed to disappear behind clouds. So deep was the shade under the high foliage and in the close shrubbery. But soon she was flying again through a bright shimmer of gold and green, above the broad-leaved miniature forests of bracken and blackberry. After a long stretch, the woods opened their columned and overarched portals. Before Maya's eyes lay a wide field of grain in the golden sunshine. Butterfly weed flamed on the grassy borders. She alighted on the branch of a birch tree at the edge of the field, and gazed upon the sea of gold that spread out endlessly in the tranquillity of the placid day. It rippled softly under the shy summer breeze, which blew gently so as not to disturb the peace of the lovely world. Under the birch tree a few small brown butterflies, using the butterfly weed for corners, were playing Puss in the Corner, a favorite game with butterfly children. Maya watched them a while. It must be lots of fun, she thought, and the children in the hive might be taught to play it too. The cells would do for corners. But Cassandra, I suppose, wouldn't permit it. She's so strict. Ah, now Maya felt sad again, because she had thought of home, and she was about to drift off into homesick reverie when she heard someone beside her say, "Good morning. You're a beast, it seems to me." Maya turned with a start. "No," she said, "decidedly not." There, sitting on her leaf, was a little polished terracotta half-sphere with 7 black dots on its cupola of a back, a minute black head and bright little eyes. Peeping from under the dotted dome and supporting it as best they could, Maya detected thin legs fine as threads. In spite of his queer figure, she somehow took a great liking to the stout little fellow. He had distinct charm. "May I ask who you are? I myself am Maya of the nation of bees."
"Do you mean to insult me? You have no reason to."
"Why should I? I don't know you, really I don't." Maya was quite upset.
"It's easy to say you don't know me. Well, I'll jog your memory. Count."
And the little rotundity began to wheel round slowly. "You mean I'm to count your dots?"
"Yes, if you please."
7, said Maya.
"Well, you still don't know? All right then, I'll tell you. I'm called exactly according to what you counted. The scientific name of our family is Septum punctata. Septum is Latin for 7. Punctata is Latin for dots, points, you see? Our common name is ladybird. My own name is Alois. I am a poet by profession. You know our common name, of course." Maya, afraid of hurting Alois's feelings, didn't dare to say no. "Oh," said he, "I live by the sunshine, by the peace of the day, and by the love of mankind."
"But don't you eat, too?" asked Maya, quite astonished.
"Of course. Plant lice, don't you?"
"No, that is—"
"Is what? Is what?"
"Not usual," said Maya shyly.
Of course," cried Alois, trying to raise one shoulder, but not succeeding, on account of the firm set of his dome. "As a bourgeoisie you would, of course, do only what is usual. We poets would not get very far that way. Have you time?"
"Why, yes," said Maya.
"Then I'll recite you one of my poems. Sit real still and close your eyes, so that nothing distracts your attention. The poem is called Man's Finger, and is about a personal experience. Are you listening?"
"Yes, to every word."
"Well then, since you did not do me wrong, that you found me doesn't matter. You are rounded, you are long. Up above you wear a flatter, pointed, polished sheath or platter, which you move as swift as light, but below you're fastened tight." "Well?" asked Alois after a short pause. There were tears in his eyes and a quaver in his voice.
"Man's finger gripped me very hard," replied Maya in some embarrassment. She really knew much lovelier poems.
"How do you find the form?" Alois questioned with a smile of fine melancholy. He seemed to be overwhelmed by the effect he had produced.
"Long and round. You yourself said so in the poem."
"I mean the artistic form, the form of my verse."
Oh, yes, I thought it was very good."
"It is, isn't it?" cried Alois. "What you mean to say is that Man's Finger may be ranked among the best poems you know of, and one must go way back in literature before one comes across anything like it. The prime requisite in art is that it should contain something new, which is what most poets forget, and bigness, too. Don't you agree with me?"
"Certainly," said Maya. "I think—"
"The firm belief you express in my importance as a poet really overwhelms me. I thank you, but I must be going now, for solitude is the poet's pride. Farewell."
"Farewell,"
echoed Maya, who really didn't know just what the little fellow had been after.
"Well," she thought, "he knows. Perhaps he's not full grown yet. He certainly isn't large." She looked after him as he hastened up the branch. His wee legs were scarcely visible. He looked as though he were moving on low rollers. Maya turned her gaze away, back to the golden field of grain, over which the butterflies were playing. The field and the butterflies gave her ever so much more pleasure than the poetry of Alois, ladybird and poet. Chapter 13. The Fortress. How happily the day had begun, and how miserably it was to end! Before the horror swept upon her, Maya had formed a very remarkable acquaintance. It was in the afternoon, near a big old water-butt. She was sitting amid the scented elder blossoms, which lay mirrored in the placid dark surface of the butt, and a robin redbreast was warbling overhead, so sweetly and merrily that Maya thought it was a shame, a crying shame, that she, a bee, could not make friends with the charming songsters. The trouble was, they were too big and ate you up. She had hidden herself in the heart of the elder blossoms and was listening and blinking under the pointed darts of the sunlight, when she heard someone beside her sigh. Turning round, she saw, well, now it really was the strangest of all the strange creatures she had ever met. It must have had at least 100 legs along each side of its body, so she thought at first glance. It was about 3 times her size, and slim, low, and wingless. "For goodness' sake! Mercy on me!" Maya was quite startled. "You must certainly be able to run." The stranger gave her a pondering look. "I doubt it," he said. "I doubt it. There's room for improvement. I have too many legs. You see, before all my legs can be set in motion, too much time is lost. I didn't use to realize this, and often I wished I had a few more legs. But God's will be done. Who are you?" Maya introduced herself. The other one nodded and moved some of his legs. "I am Thomas of the family of millipedes. We are an old race, and we arouse admiration and astonishment in all parts of the globe. No other animal can boast anything like our number of legs. 8 is their limit, so far as I know." "You are tremendously interesting, and your color is so queer. Have you got a family?" "Why, no. Why should I? What good would a family do me? We millipedes crawl out of our eggs, that's all. If we can't stand on our own feet, who should?" Of course," Maya observed thoughtfully. "But have you no relations?" "No, dear child. I earn my living, and doubt. I doubt." "Oh, what do you doubt?" "I was born doubting. I must doubt." Maya stared at him in wide-eyed bewilderment. What did he mean? What could he possibly mean? She couldn't for the life of her make out, but she did not want to pry too curiously into his private affairs. "For one thing," said Thomas after a pause, "for one thing, I doubt whether you have chosen a good place to rest in. Don't you know what's over there in the big willow?" "No." "You see? I doubted right away if you knew. The city of the hornets is over there." Maya turned deathly white and nearly fell off the elder blossoms. In a voice shaking with fright, she asked just where the city was. "Do you see that old nesting box for starlings, there in the shrubbery near the trunk of the willow tree? It's so poorly placed that I doubted from the first whether starlings would ever move in. If a birdhouse isn't set with its door facing the sunrise, every decent bird will think twice before taking possession. Well, the hornets have entrenched themselves in it. It's the biggest hornets' fortress in the country. You, as a bee, certainly ought to know of the place. Why, the hornets are brigands who lie in wait for the bees. So, at least, I have observed." Maya scarcely heard what he was saying. There, showing clear against the green, she saw the brown walls of the fortress. She almost stopped breathing. "I must fly away!" she cried. Too late. Behind her sounded a loud, mean laugh. At the same moment the little bee felt herself caught by the neck so violently that she thought her joints were broken. It was a laugh she would never forget, like a vile taunt out of hellish darkness. Mingling with it was another gruesome sound, the awful clanking of armor. Thomas let go with all his legs at once and tumbled head over heels through the branches into the water butt. "I doubt if you get away alive," he called back. But the poor little bee no longer heard. She couldn't see her assailant. Her neck was caught in too firm a grip, but a gilt-sheathed arm passed before her eyes, and a huge head and dreadful pincers suddenly thrust itself above her face. She took it at first to belong to a giant wasp, but then realized that she had fallen into the clutches of a hornet. The black and yellow striped monster was surely 4 times her size. Maya lost sight, hearing, speech. Every nerve in her body went faint. At length her voice came back, and she screamed for help. "Never mind, girlie," said the hornet in a honey-sweet tone that was sickening. "Never mind. It'll last until it's over." He smiled a baleful smile. "Let go!" cried Maya. "Let me go, or I'll sting you in your heart." "In my heart right away. Very brave. But there's time for that later." Maya went into a fury, summoning all her strength. She twisted herself around, uttered her shrill battle cry, and directed her sting against the middle of the hornet's breast. To her amazement and horror, the sting, instead of piercing his breast, swerved on the surface. The brigand's armor was impervious. Wrath gleamed in his eyes. "I could bite your head off, little one, to punish you for your impudence. And I would, too. I would indeed, but for our queen. She prefers fresh bees to dead carcasses. So a good soldier saves a juicy morsel like you to bring to her alive." The hornet, with Maya still in his grip, rose into the air and made directly for the fortress. "This is too awful," thought the poor little bee. "No one can stand this." She fainted. When she came to her senses, she found herself in half darkness in a sultry dusk permeated by a horrid pungent smell. Slowly everything came back to her. A great paralyzing sadness settled in her heart. She wanted to cry. The tears refused to come. "I haven't been eaten up yet, but I may be any moment," she thought in a tremble. Through the walls of her prison she caught the distinct sound of voices, and soon she noticed the little light filtered through a narrow chink. The hornets made their walls, not of wax like the bees, but of a dry mass resembling porous gray paper. By the one thread of light she managed bit by bit to make out her surroundings. Horror of horrors! Maya was almost congealed with fright. The floor was strewn with the bodies of dead insects. At her very feet lay a little rose beetle turned over on its back. To one side was the skeleton of a large locust broken in two, and everywhere were the remains of slaughtered bees, their wings and legs and sheaths. "Oh, oh, to think this had to happen to me!" whimpered little Maya. She did not dare to stir the fraction of an inch, and pressed herself shivering into the farthest corner of this chamber of horrors. Again she heard voices on the other side of the wall. Impelled by mortal fear, she crept up to the chink and peeped through. What she saw was a vast hall, crowded with hornets, and magnificently illuminated by a number of captive glowworms. Enthroned in their midst sat the queen. She seemed to be holding an important council. Maya caught every word that was said. If those glittering monsters had not inspired her with such unspeakable horror, she would have gone into raptures over their strength and magnificence. It was the first time she had had a good view of any of the race of brigands. Tigers they looked like, superb tigers of the insect world, with their tawny black-barred bodies. A shiver of awe ran through the little bee. A sergeant-at-arms went about the walls of the hall, ordering the glowworms to give all the light they could. They must strain themselves to the utmost. He muttered his commands in a low voice, so as not to interrupt the deliberations, and thrust at them with a long spear, hissing as he did so.
"Light up, or I'll eat you!"
Terrible the things that were done in the fortress of the hornets. Then Maya heard the queen say, "Very well, we shall abide by the arrangements we have made. Tomorrow, 1 hour before dawn, the warriors will assemble and sally forth to the attack on the city of the bees in the castle park. The hive is to be plundered and as many prisoners taken as possible. He who captures Queen Helen the Eighth and brings her to me alive will be dubbed a knight. Go forth and be brave and victorious, and bring back rich booty. The meeting is herewith adjourned. Sleep well, my warriors. I bid you good night." The queen hornet rose from her throne and left the hall accompanied by her bodyguard. Maya nearly cried out loud. "My country!" she sobbed. "My bees, my dear, dear bees!" She pressed her hands to her mouth to keep herself from screaming. She was in the depths of despair. "Oh, would that I had died before I heard this! No one will warn my people. They will be attacked in their sleep and massacred. Oh, God, perform a miracle! Help me and my people! Our need is great." In the hall the glowworms were put out and devoured. Gradually the fortress was wrapped in a hush. Maya seemed to have been forgotten. A faint twilight crept into her cell, and she thought she caught the strumming of the cricket's night song outside. Was anything more horrible than this dungeon with its carcasses strewn on the ground? Chapter 14. The Sentinel. Soon, however, the little bee's despair yielded to a definite resolve. It was as though she once more called to mind that she was a bee. "Here I am, weeping and wailing," she thought, "as if I had no brains and as if I were a weakling. Oh, I'm not much of an honor to my people and my queen. They are in danger. I am doomed anyhow. So since death is certain one way or another, I may as well be proud and brave and do everything I can to try to save them." It was as though Maya had completely forgotten the long time that had passed since she left her home. More strongly than ever she felt herself one of her people, and the great responsibility that suddenly devolved upon her through the knowledge of the hornet's plot filled her with fine courage and determination. "If my people are to be vanquished and killed, I want to be killed too, but first I must do everything in my power to save them." "Long live my queen!" she cried.
"Quiet in there!"
clanged harshly from the outside. Ugh, what an awful voice! The watchman making his rounds. Then it was already late in the night. As soon as the watchman's footsteps had died away, Maya began to widen the chink through which she had peeped into the hall. It was easy to bite away the brittle stuff of the partition, though it took some time before the opening was large enough to admit her body. At length, in the full knowledge that discovery would cost her her life, she squeezed through into the hall. From remote depths of the fortress echoed the sound of loud snoring. The hall lay in a subdued blue light that found its way in through the distant entrance. "The moonlight! Maya said to herself. She began to creep cautiously toward the exit, cowering close in the deep shadows of the walls, until she reached the high, narrow passageway that led from the hall to the opening through which the light shone. She heaved a deep sigh. Far, far away glimmered a star. Liberty, she thought. The passageway was quite bright. Softly, stepping oh so very softly, Maya crept on. The portal came nearer and nearer. If I fly now, she thought, I'll be out in one dash. Her heart pounded as if ready to burst. But there, in the shadow of the doorway, stood a sentinel leaning against a column. Maya stood still, rooted to the spot. Vanished all her hopes. Gone the chance of escape. There was no getting by that formidable figure. What was she to do? Best go back where she had come from. But the sight of the giant in the doorway held her in a spell. He seemed to be lost in reverie. He stood gazing out upon the moon-washed landscape, his head tilted slightly forward, his chin propped on his hand. How his golden cuirass gleamed in the moonlight. Something in the way he stood there stirred the little bee's emotions. He looks so sad, she thought. How handsome he is, how superbly he holds himself, how proudly his armor shines. He never removes it, neither by day nor by night. He is always ready to rob and fight and die. Little Maya quite forgot that this man was her enemy. Ah, how often the same thing had happened to her, that the goodness of her heart and her delight in beauty made her lose all sense of danger. A golden dart of light shot from the bandit's helmet. He must have turned his head. "My God," whispered Maya, "this is the end of me." But the sentinel said quietly, "Just come here, child." "What?" cried Maya. "You saw me?" "All the time, child. You bit a hole through the wall. Then you crept along, tucking yourself very neatly into the dark places until you reached the spot where you're standing. Then you saw me, and you lost heart. Am I right?" "Yes," said Maya, "quite right." Her whole body shook with terror. The sentinel, then, had seen her the entire time. She remembered having heard how keen were the senses of these clever freebooters. "What are you doing here?" he asked good-humoredly. Maya still thought he looked sad. His mind seemed to be far away, and not to concern itself with what was of such moment to her. "I'd like to get out," she answered, "and I'm not afraid. I was just startled. You looked so strong and handsome, and your armor shone so. Now I'll fight you." The sentinel, slightly astonished, leaned forward and looked at Maya and smiled. It was not an ugly smile, and Maya experienced an entirely new feeling. The young warrior's smile seemed to exercise a mysterious power over her heart. "No, little one," he said almost tenderly, "you and I won't fight. You bees belong to a powerful nation, but man for man, we hornets are stronger. To do single battle with a bee would be beneath our dignity. If you like, you may stay here a little while and chat, but only a little while. Soon I'll have to wake the soldiers up. Then back to your cell you must go." How curious! The hornet's lofty friendliness disarmed Maya more than anger or hate could have done. The feeling with which he inspired her was almost admiration. With great sad eyes she looked up at her enemy, and constrained, as always, to follow the impulses of her heart, she said, "I have always heard bad things about hornets, but you are not bad. I can't believe you're bad." The warrior looked at Maya. "There are good people and bad people everywhere," he said gravely.
But you mustn't forget we are your enemies, and shall always remain your enemies."
"Must an enemy always be bad?" asked Maya. "Before, when you were looking out into the moonlight, I forgot that you were hard and dangerous. You seemed sad, and I have always thought that people who were sad couldn't possibly be wicked."
The sentinel said nothing, and Maya continued more boldly. "You are powerful. If you want to, you can put me back in my cell and I'll have to die. But you can also set me free, if you want to." At this, the warrior drew himself up. His armor clanked, and the arm he raised shone in the moonlight. But the moonlight was turning dimmer in the passageway. Was dawn coming already? "You are right," he said. "I can. My people and my queen have entrusted me with this power. My orders are that no bee who has set foot in this fortress shall leave it alive. I shall keep faith with my people." After a pause, he added softly, as if to himself, "I have learned by bitter experience how faithlessness can hurt. When Loveydear forsook me..." Little Maya was overcome. She did not know what to say. Ah, the same sentiments moved her too. Love of her own kind, loyalty to her people. Nothing to be done here but to use force or strategy. Each did his duty, and yet each remained an enemy to the other. But hadn't the sentinel mentioned a name? Hadn't he said something about someone's having been unfaithful to him? Loveydear, why, she knew Loveydear, the beautiful dragonfly who lived at the lakeside among the water lilies. Maya quivered with excitement. Here, perhaps, was her salvation. But she wasn't quite sure how much good her knowledge would be to her. So she said prudently, "Who is Loveydear, if I may ask?" "Never mind, little one. She's not your affair, and she's lost to me forever. I shall never find her again." "I know Miss Loveydear." Maya forced herself to put the utmost indifference into her tone. "She belongs to the family of dragonflies, and she's the loveliest lady of all." A tremendous change came over the warrior. He seemed to have forgotten where he was. He leapt over to Maya's sides as if blown by a violent gust. "What? You know Loveydear? Tell me where she is. Tell me right away." "No." Maya spoke quietly and firmly. She glowed with secret delight. "I'll bite your head off if you don't tell." The warrior drew dangerously close. "It will be bitten off anyhow. Go ahead. I shan't betray the lovely dragonfly. She's a close friend of mine. You want to imprison her." The warrior breathed hard. In the gathering dawn, Maya could see that his forehead was pale and his eyes tragic with the inner struggle he was waging. "Good God," he said wildly, "it's time to rouse the soldiers. No, no, little bee, I don't want to harm Loveydear. I love her more dearly than my life. Tell me where I shall find her again." Maya was clever. She purposely hesitated before she said, "But I love my life." "If you tell me where Loveydear lives..." Maya could see that the sentinel spoke with difficulty and was trembling all over. "I'll set you free. You can fly wherever you want." "Will you keep your word?" "My word of honor as a brigand," said the sentinel proudly. Maya could scarcely speak, but if she was to be in time to warn her people of the attack, every moment counted. Her heart exulted. "Very well," she said. "I believe you. Listen, then. Do you know the ancient linden trees near the castle? Beyond them lies one meadow after another, and finally comes a big lake. In a cove at the south end, where the brook empties into the lake,
The water lilies lie spread out on the water in the sunlight. Near them, in the rushes, is where Lovey-Dear lives. You will find her there every day at noon when the sun is high in the heavens." The warrior had pressed both hands to his pale brow. He seemed to be having a desperate struggle with himself. "You're telling the truth," he said softly, and groaned, whether from joy or pain it was impossible to tell. "She told me she wanted to go where there were floating white flowers. Those must be the flowers you speak of. Fly away, then, I thank you." And actually he stepped aside from the entrance. Day was breaking. "A brigand keeps his word," he said. Not knowing that Maya had overheard the deliberations in the council chamber, he told himself that one small bee, more or less, made little difference. Weren't there hundreds of others? "Good-bye!" cried Maya, breathless with haste, and flew off without a word of thanks. As a matter of fact, there was no time to spare.